How are we tonight, teens? We good? Yeah? Some of you got Maxib on good. I got no more Maxib ones tonight, so I'm getting the feeling that we've got a few new people who have showed up tonight. So I'll just catch you up on who I am, so that you're not like, who is this guy? And what we talked about last night. My name's Chris, and I'm 26. I was just thinking about it. It's pretty much 10 years ago this year that I walked into a high school tent, much like this one at Big Camp in New South Wales, as a non-Adventist kid who just came along to play basketball and go surfing all week. And I sat up the back and Matty Gamble was preaching, and I was so tired from playing basketball and surfing that day that I fell asleep. And I think I fell asleep every night that week in the messages. But the experience I had that week and the community that I discovered of people who believed in Jesus, that was that week 10 years ago, which is crazy, makes me feel so old, is man, that's a massive part of the journey for me. And I hope and I pray that tonight some of you guys are walking in here, and this week and tonight and last night and this journey this week is a huge chapter in your journey getting to know Jesus, like these experiences have been for me. I grew up from my days sleeping in tents at Big Camp, and I became a teacher, and I work in Brisbane at North Pine Christian College now, teaching PE and Bible. So don't hold the teacher thing against me. I'm off duty this week. It's holidays, so I'm keen to hang out with you guys and get to know you. And like I said last night, I really want to get to know you guys. Come and chat to me. Come and talk to me. There's a few guys last night I hung out with afterwards, and it's cool to connect. To catch up, last night we talked about the fact that we all love something, and there's a bit of a sequence, a series of thoughts I shared with you guys, that we all love something, and when we love something we get to know it really, really well, because we're interested in it, we're fascinated by it, we obsess over it. When we love something, we know it well, and when we know something that well, we start to become known by it. People go, oh, that's Chris, the guy who spoke at Big Camp, or the basketball guy, or that's Ryan, the mountain biker guy, or whatever it might be. We become known by what we love because it's part of our identity. And when we build our lives on these things, and hey, they might not even be physical. It might be like, you really love popularity, and you get to know how to be popular. You get to know it well, and people know, oh, that guy or that girl, that's a popular person. But when we build our life on these things, they crumble, we crumble with it. And the thing that we need to get to know, the thing that we need to love and get to know really well and be known by is Jesus. Because when we're known by something, we imitate that. And it's pretty important to reflect on what you imitate in your life, what you love and what you imitate. And whether that's a solid foundation or whether it's something that's going to crumble. And I'm bringing to you this week that Jesus is that solid foundation. And I want you guys to come on that journey with me. Let's pray. Lord, I want to thank you for each person in this tent, for the fact that you brought them here tonight. And no two of the people in this tent really have come here by the same path. They've walked a different path in their life. They've had different experiences. They're here in this tent tonight for different reasons. And some of them might be just like me, coming in here just because they're hanging with their mates and they heard Big Camp's fun and they're going to fall asleep. And Lord, I pray that you bless them because they're here and they're part of this community. And that was a stepping stone that you put before me in my life to bring me where I am today. And I never would have dreamed of that. But Lord, it's a journey you've got us all on individually. And I pray that we appreciate each other's journey. And that tonight we learn, we take steps in that journey towards knowing you, knowing your Son. Amen. I want to talk to you guys this evening about love again, but in a slightly different context. This morning, Lily did a worship with us, and she gave us a band, and she told us to write something on the band that kind of was a prayer thought or a devotional thought or something that we're kind of connecting with right now to get us with God. And I thought I'd go with something simple. I just wrote, because this is like a daily reminder for me, is just love God, love people. Lily shared with us, you want to summarize this book, someone asks Jesus to do that. What is the most important law? And he says, love God, love people. Now, last night we talked about the importance of making God that thing that we love, making God that thing that we build on, that we get to know well, that we become known by. making Jesus that guy that we're just trying to imitate. And tonight I want to talk about the second part of what I've written on my wrist, and that's loving people. Because we stuff it up. I'm telling you that right now. We wreck the whole concept of loving one another on a daily basis, and we do it in so many ways. And I want to talk to you guys about relationships this evening, because they can be tricky. Relationships are the most important thing in your life, but they can also be the most difficult thing in your life. Because the reality is we're born and we're built and we're designed for community. You know, if you're alone on this planet, it would be a tough existence. And God, you know, that's why he made Eve to go with Adam, because Adam recognized this sense of loneliness. We're made for companionship. Now, there's some aspects of what I'm going to talk about tonight that, you know, might challenge you. And for some of you guys who are younger, it might not be a challenge that's come into your life yet, but I want you to remember this message. And for you guys who are in the midst of your teen years and on the back end of your teen years, I can tell you right now that some of the stuff that I'm going to share with you tonight is probably going to be a challenge to you in your personal life. And I know that writing it, speaking about it, is a challenge for me as well. I want to talk to you about relationships. So before we get to the heavy stuff, I want to open up and share a little bit with you guys about some of the crushes that I had in my school years. And this, you know, I'm making myself vulnerable here, so you guys need to respect that and maybe come and tell me some embarrassing stories about yourself later. Now, my first kind of brush with romance, like seeking relationship, seeking connection with someone, was when I was in year 2. Now, there's this girl in... Yeah, I know, man. Yeah, I was ahead of the game, all right? And there was this girl in my year called Jade, and man, she had just like this strawberry blonde hair and these cute little freckles. I kind of identified with that because I was that freckle fart from Kmart kid, and I thought, she can probably reciprocate the feelings because she has them too. You know, we've got something in common here. And I can't remember the details, but I obviously made it known to her via her friends, because there's no way that year 2 Chris had the guts to walk up to a girl and just be like, hey, how you doing? It's a funny side story. I teach these year 9 boys, and I took 2 of them out for dinner for this mentoring program. One of them, his name's Jade. He's from Malta, and he's only like real short, but he's got heaps of swag. All right, like he's got the mad haircut, real fresh, and like the lines down the side. He's got like his Nike high tops. We go out to Grilled, and these girls walk past, and I could see him and his mate kind of like looking at them like, they look all right. And I said, Jade, I'll give you $10 if you go up to one of those girls and say, hey guys, I lost my phone number. Can I have one of yours? And like cheesy, I was just thinking on the spot. But I think there's no way this guy's got the guts to do that. And he looks at me and he goes, hey, I lost my phone number. Can I have yours? And the girls just giggle and walk off, and he comes over and he goes, pay up, Mr. Starrett. Now, year 2, Chris didn't have those kind of guts. So obviously I'd made it known to Jade via her friends that I had an interest in her. And it came back to me that she was interested as well. So, yeah, hey, success. The strike rate was high in year 2. It's seriously dipped since then. But yeah, so we walked around the Oval together. It was romantic. It was really, really special. I think we may have held hands at one point in time, and I distinctly remember talking about getting married. All right, you know, these are 2 young kids who are fantasizing about a life together. If this girl was in this tent right now, man, I don't know what she'd be thinking, but she probably doesn't remember it. These are special memories to me. She's cast them aside. And I got back, and I'm on this high. So we go back to class, and we're doing spelling tests and all that. And then the news comes to me at the start of lunch. I'm getting ready for another lap of the Oval, you know, looking into the future. And the news comes to me via her friends that we're not dating anymore. It's over. And I just remember being like, what? And so like the packet of, you know, tiny teddies I had in my hand, so I wasn't even hungry anymore. And I was heartbroken. Now, isn't it funny that even at that young age, there's just something in my mind. There's something in our minds that we're designed for relationship, for connection, for some kind of companionship. And you know, like I was just reading about Samson earlier, and man, Samson, he was designed for connection. And there's about Samson's first marriage, it says this. His father and mother said to him, "Is there not another woman among the daughters of your relatives or our people that you must take for a wife?" And Samson says, "Go and get her for me. She is right in my eyes." Like, this guy, he knows what he wants. We have this design within us to seek companionship. Now, I have a little bit kind of more insight to share with you guys on the ways we do this, and some of this stuff you might be able to relate to. See, I'm a school teacher, and the kids all kind of think that they think that I'm somehow just like in touch with all their crushes, and it's so silly. They think I'm really like intuitive and I can work it out, but none of them understand that they all just come and tell me, and they're like, "How did you know that, sir?" And I'm like, "Oh, your friend told me." "Oh, he always knows everything. He's just so crazy. How does he know this stuff?" And it's like, "Because you all tell me." and I've started to observe the different ways that particularly boys, but also girls, kind of seek attention or don't seek it even though they want it. And you might be able to relate to this, or you might look at your friends as I'm describing some of these and go, "That's you." So when you're at school, you might remember, or you might have been this person, the person... and this isn't even at school, this is in life. The person who has a crush on someone different or has an interest in someone different, like every week or sometimes every day. It's like you talk to them one day and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm really into this person, we've connected." And then the next day it's like, "Oh, how's it going with that person?" "Oh man, forget them, I met someone else, they're way cooler." And they're just like churning through them, okay? So we have people who kind of seek connection like that. They're really like consumerist about it. A lot of my mates at school were like that. Now this was me. I'm continuing to make myself vulnerable. This is me. That person, and I think this is my brother as well, who through like school just had like long-term crushes, like borderline stalker, like, like term long, year long, like I like that girl, and then like 3 months later you've had no success. She's made it clear that you're like deep in the friend zone, and people go, "Who do you like?" And "Oh, still her, but just shh." Don't bring it up. And that was me. I'm self-confessed, like, long-term kind of crush guy. This is another one. This is funny. There's a kid at my school, and I called him out at chapel. I don't know any of you guys to call you out, but there's the mystery crush person, that friend you've got who never tells anyone. And you all know who it is, but they're just like, "No, I'm not saying." And everyone knows, and everyone's kind of talking behind their back, like, "How funny is it that he likes that girl, but he never talks about it?" And then he's like, "What? I don't like her. Shut up. No, I've never said anything about that." And we got these like mystery, like, "I don't want anyone to know. I'm just closed up." And then there's two types of like the friend zone. There's the person, and my mate Joe, I really respect him. He's like, his girlfriend, who he's now engaged to, they're getting married next year. He was like best friends with her for like 2 years before they even dated. And it was like not even the kind of friendship where people went, "Oh yeah, he's tuning her." It was like, no, they're just mates. They're just mates. They just hang out. And then one day they started dating, and we're like, "Oh yeah, like I guess that could happen." But then there's the other kind of friend zone that you don't want to be in. That's like the friend zone, the one you can't get out of. And there's merits to both of those, the friend zone. And then finally there's the one who actually pulls it off. There's like that person who just like they like someone, and then like a week later they're dating, and you're like, "How do they do that? I liked that girl for like 6 months and she didn't even look at me." And this guy just said, like 1 week, "Yeah, I think I'm into her. Yeah, it's official. We're on Facebook official." It's like, we've locked it in. Now, the purpose of these, as amusing as some of them are, is to point out to you guys that no matter who we are, no matter how we look for it, we're all seeking relationship. We're seeking connection with someone. And like, we talked last night about loving stuff and loving things, or loving status, or loving to build certain things about our identity. But this is separate to that. This is like actually loving other people. And a lot of the time it's got to do with like we don't want to just give that love. A lot of it is selfish, and we want to be loved back. We want to feel loved because that feels good. Like it feels good to know that someone cares about you. It feels good to know that someone thinks about you and that they make you a priority and important in their life. That feels really good. It's like comforting. It's a sense of security that we seek, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think that there's anything coincidental about it even. I think it's completely by design. And we don't have to look far to see where that design came from. There's two really, really good John 3:16s in the Bible. Now, the first one you're really familiar with. "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son." So, like, we've got this example of a God who's loving, so loving, in fact, that he gives his son. And the second John 3:16 has a really similar theme, but it's talking about our context more. It's 1 John 3:16, later in the New Testament. And it says, "For this is how we know what love is. Christ laid down his life for us, so we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters." So we don't have to look far to see where this design of love came from. It's written on our hearts by a loving Father who gave his son, sacrificed him. And then 1 John 16 says, and you know what? That sacrifice, it wasn't just like, a once-off thing. He wants you to replicate that, to imitate that in your life. Now, does that mean that you die daily for your friends? Well, we don't really have the opportunity for that, but it means that you do lay down yourself for your friends. You lay down who you are and what's sometimes your interests for other people. You make sacrifices for them. This like idea of love, to give love and to be loved, it's written on our hearts. And it comes straight from here. Like Jesus wrote the book on love. It's here for us. That's where it came from. Now there's a problem with this. I'm making it sound really simple, but it doesn't happen like that in the world. We're missing something. And I want to suggest to you guys tonight that our world, our society, the culture we live in is really, really, really good at messing this up. Messing it up big time. Particularly making relationship all about fake loving contexts. And that's what I mean by that is take, but no give. Our society focuses on the fact that you should get love, but you shouldn't give it back. You don't need to do that. It's a one-way thing. Brendan's over in the 18 plus tent talking about consumerism, and I listened to him in Meridian this morning, and he's talking about our consumerist attitude towards church, and we have that same consumer attitude towards love. I saw something on the internet the other day, and it was like the things I want in life to make me happy. And it was like fast internet connection, fast shipping, and fast. There was like 3 fasts that make us happy, and it was like, yeah, those 2 were one of them. I forgot what the last one was. But we want things fast. Yeah, fast food, fast shipping, fast internet, something like that. We want things quick because we're consumers. We take. Now, it's so destructive when that enters a love context, because love was never meant to be like that. Love, relationship, was never meant to be one way. Now, we got this one word, we talked about it last night, that we spread really thin, love. Like I said last night, I love haystacks. Man, they're so good. Oh yeah, I love my mum. She's awesome. And like the love I have for haystacks and the love I have for my mum are 2 totally different things, but we use one word for them. And the Bible has a heap of different words for them in the Greek and Hebrew. Now, what we overlook is that the main use of the word love in the Bible is agape love. And that's like selfless, unconditional, sacrificing, like lay down your life love. Now, eros, that's like, the love I've been talking about with my crushes in primary school. That's what the world sells to us and sells to you guys as like, that's love. This is what love is. And unfortunately, it also sexualizes that concept. And this is what I want to delve into right now for a little bit. Because you guys are teens and you are being exposed right now as like they call you guys digital natives. You're the first generation to grow up with like a computer in front of you, like a screen in your pocket like half the time that you've got access to. You guys are the first generation really to see that. When I was your age, like 10 years ago, when I was sitting in that high school tent, my mobile phone like had snake and text messaging and the battery lasted like 6 hours. All right, so access to like what those devices can get in front of you, it was totally different. You guys are growing up in a crazy world. And I want to address some of the trappings and some of the challenges that you can face with that. See, the world messes up this concept of love and makes it all about getting and not about giving, and there's a bunch of ways that happens. It takes something, and love was meant to be eternal and meaningful. Like every meaning of the word love was supposed to be eternal, not temporary, not something that just flickers and then goes out. And it was supposed to have meaning, connection. Like when Adam had Eve, that was like eternal connection. It wasn't just like for a moment of pleasure. But the world's taken love and it's made it temporary and meaningless. And here's how. The hookup culture. You guys have probably heard of that. Oh, yeah, I went to a party. Yeah, oh, yeah, there was this girl there. She wanted to hook up with me. Oh, there's this guy there I hooked up with. Oh, are you going to date them? Nah. No, it was just a once-off thing. That's just what happens. And then it goes beyond that as you guys get older and you move into the next phase of that, experimenting as young people, into the casual sex culture, which is even more destructive. And I'll be real with you guys. I got a really good friend up in Queensland. He's not in the church, and he honestly wouldn't care about me sharing this because, man, his life's going pretty wild for him, but he's a real honest guy. And he's got 3 kids to 2 different girls. He's working 7 days a week to try and pay for all this. And if you say to him, like, dude, like, how do you feel about this? He goes, man, like, I really wish I'd made some better decisions, but I got caught up in that culture. Like, this is real. We don't talk about this much in church, and that's why I wanted to talk about it. We talk about it a lot in our social circles, and we don't talk about it in the right way. We laugh about it. We joke about it. Oh, yeah, she's hot. Wouldn't mind like hooking up with her. Wouldn't mind going there. And we talk about it like that, but we don't get in church and sit down and talk and go, hey, this is real. Love was designed. It was put in our hearts by God, and it's messed up by the world, and we need to change that. And it's about time we started having these conversations and going, you know what? The hookup culture, that's not healthy, because that's a stepping stone to that casual sex culture, and that's a big trap. That's dangerous. That can end you. That was never designed to be that way. Never designed to be that way. Now, I know some of the terminology I'm using, you might be going, whoa, but I'm going to throw another one out there, pornography. Now, I know, like, the statistics tell us and that, like, pretty much, like, more than half of you guys have seen this at some point. Whether you looked it up yourself or whether it came across your phone screen by someone else showing it to you. Like, I have an uncle, and he's got nothing to do with the church, and he's actually no longer a part of our family. But I remember when I was about 17 years old, going over to see my auntie and my cousins and my uncle, and he had his mobile phone, and he's come to me and he said, hey, check this out. And he put something in front of me that I had never seen before, and I should never have seen. Now, I know that we don't go seeking this stuff sometimes. Sometimes it comes across your eyesight. It comes into your life in ways that you don't have any control over. But I want to be very clear right now about the fact that that is messing up what love is intended to be. And it's becoming more and more ingrained in our society. It's becoming more culturally acceptable that, oh yeah, you just see that stuff. And you know what we see on TV, what we see in the movies, because you don't even have to talk about like pornography in like a hardcore, inappropriate sense. You can go to the movies or you can sit down and watch TV late at night and you can see stuff that you weren't meant to see. You can see stuff that's messing with the idea of love, that's messing with the design that God put on our heart of what love and a relationship was supposed to be. And it's not like you've gone out of your way to look at that. It's there. It's in mainstream culture. And we're getting like softened up to think, oh, it's okay. It happens. Yeah, that's how it is. But it's not how it should be. Because we were designed for more than that. Our love, our relationships, were intended to be something meaningful and something eternal and something sacred, not something temporary and meaningless and cheap. And I want you guys to understand the importance of this, because sometimes it gets just talked about and joked about like it doesn't mean anything, but it's messing with the fiber of who we are. Now there's less like damaging on the surface ways this manifests itself, like the way dating happens these days. And what we're talking about, consumerism, like, your apps like Tinder and stuff. And I'm not going to say that in itself is a bad thing, but I'm going to say that the way you can use that to use other people, that's a bad thing. The way we look at dating is just this kind of rotating kind of, wheel of fortune of like, who's up next? I'm gonna see who else I can hook up with, or what other experience I can get. And I hope that you guys understand the point that while I'm talking about these things, the problem with all of it is that it's about what love we can get. It's about consuming. It's about take. And love is a two-way street. It's about giving back. And all this stuff that our culture puts in front of us that messes with love, it's taken that give aspect away. And it's all about consuming it and taking it for ourselves and being selfish. And that messes with who we are. It messes with what we were designed to be. It messes with the idea that we're designed. The reason I'm a primary school kid who wants to date some girl in year 2 and walk around an oval and talk about marrying her is because in my heart there is a desire to have a companion. And that companion and that desire is not planted inside me so that I can just take and use them up as this person who's just supposed to make me feel loved and I give nothing back. That design is put inside me because I'm designed to love back. And that's why 1 John 3:16 doesn't just say, yeah, and appreciate that Jesus died for you and just live it up. It says, this is how we know what love is. Christ laid down his life for us. So we now go and we lay down our lives for others. And when you are in a loving relationship, and let's step outside the box of talking about male to female or a romantic relationship between two people, and let's talk about friendships. If you're in a friendship with someone who's just take, how long are you in that friendship for? Not real long. But we're messing with this idea of how we're supposed to connect with one another. Let me be clear. Love is never about using someone else. Love is selfless. You read the love chapter in Corinthians. Love is selfless. There's a story in the Bible that I want to share with you guys. And if you've got your Bible or your phone with a Bible on it, turn to John 4, chapter 7. John chapter 4, verse 7. It's the woman at the well. I'm going to read it and then I want to unpack it a little. A woman from Samaria came to draw water. And Jesus said to her, "Give me a drink." The disciples had gone into the city to get food. And the woman said to him, "How is it that you, a Jew, ask me for a drink? I'm a Samaritan woman." Now, you guys have probably heard this broken down before. Samaritans and Jews didn't really hang out. They hated each other. That's why Jesus told the parable of the Good Samaritan. And the Levite and the priest, they walk past the guy who's dying on the road, and then the Samaritan helps him. So to give you some context, the Jews who were listening to that parable, as Jesus is going, there's a man dying on the side of the road, and the priest walked past him, and then the Levite walked past him. Well, the Jews would have been thinking, they had good reason to walk past him, because, if they got blood on them or they touched a dead body, then they wouldn't be able to work in the temple. So, it's a good thing. But surely a good Jewish citizen will come along. And then Jesus blows their hats off and goes, nah. And the guy who came along was a Samaritan. Those people you hate? Yeah, well, he helped the dead guy or the injured guy. And he took him and he helped him and he put him on his horse. And they would have been there going, what? A Samaritan? We hate those people. Jesus is talking to a Samaritan woman. And she would have just been going, hang on a minute. You're a man talking to a woman. Firstly, in this context, that's pretty out there. A man talking to a woman who's not his wife in public. And she's a Samaritan. So Jesus is breaking down barriers just by starting this conversation. That's what he does. Jesus answered her after she's kind of queried, "Why are you talking to me?" and said, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that is saying to you, 'Give me a drink,' you would have asked me, and I would have given you living water." Now the woman said to him, "Sir, you have nothing to draw water with, and this well is deep. Where do you get that living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob? He gave us the well and drank from it himself, as did his sons and his livestock." And Jesus said to her, "Everyone who drinks of this water will thirst again. But whoever drinks of the water that I give will never be thirsty again. The water that I will give will become in him a spring of water welling up to eternal life." And the woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water so that I will not be thirsty or have to come here to draw water." And Jesus says to her this, "Go and call your husband and tell him to come here." And the woman answers him, "Well, I have no husband." And Jesus says, "Yeah, you're right in saying that you have no husband, for you've had 5, and the one you have now isn't even your husband. So what you've said is true." And the woman said to him, "Sir, I perceive that you're a prophet. Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, but you say that in Jerusalem is the place where people are to worship." And Jesus says, "Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem will you worship the Father. You worship what you don't know, but we worship what we know." Now I'm gonna stop it there. Last night we talked about how when we love something, we know it well. Crazy how well Jesus knows this girl as well. Hey, when you love something, you know it well. When Jesus loves his people, he knows them well. And he's not there to judge her. He's offering her living water. But what's significant and what ties in with the relationship concept and how we mess that up, and what I want to point out to you is that this woman's obviously been seeking, hey? This woman has obviously, like we talk about knowing people's story, and it's easy to make a judgment and go, oh, wow, she's got like she's had 5 husbands and she's not even officially with the guy she's with now. Like, man, what is she doing? But there's obviously a story there, and Jesus knows that. And he steps in and he's like, I understand that this world has messed up your concept of love. And that on your heart there is this burning desire to be loved, to have a man who will actually treat you and respect you the way you ought to be. And you haven't found that. And so you've been seeking it again and again and again. And that's why he doesn't step in it with any kind of judgment. He steps in and says, you know what? Instead of judging you, I have a solution. I have a solution to the path that you're on, to seeking this empty, unfulfilling love that's just all about taking, got nothing to do with give. And the solution to that is a living water that I can offer you. And it's like nothing on this earth. It's not like any of this empty, fake, shallow, loving kind of mess that you've been experiencing on this planet. This is living water, and it won't dry out. This is an eternal wellspring. And once you know about it, it's going to be coming up from inside you, and you're going to want to tell other people about it. You know the epic part about this story? This woman goes back to the city where she's from, and she tells the people her testimony. And the Bible says this, it says the people left the city to meet Jesus. Because you see, we read this story and we go, oh man, that woman, she must have been like the baddest person in that town. But if that woman goes back to the city and she tells this testimony, why does everyone in that city leave? They go outside those city walls to meet Jesus. Well, I reckon it's because they were pretty thirsty too. Because it wasn't just this lady who was seeking love. It wasn't just this lady who was coming up dry when she was wanting to be filled up. It wasn't just this lady who was tied up in this love, this messed up love context where it's take, and no give, no selflessness, no agape love. It wasn't just her. There was a city full of people who were chasing, and they were coming up empty. And they leave that city to meet Jesus. They step outside and they say to the woman, it says later in that story, go and read it in John 4. They say, we believe now, not because what you've told us, but because we've heard for ourselves, and we believe based on the story, based on our own testimony now. I want you guys to understand tonight that you were designed for love, and not just the one-dimensional love that this world sells to you and tells you to consume, but this broad love that the Father designed and put on our hearts. For God so loved the world that he gave his only son. That's sacrifice, and it doesn't stop there, because it says in 1 John 3:16, this is how we know what love is. You know, you're looking for a definition, you don't open the dictionary, don't jump on the internet and Google it. Go 1 John 3:16. This is how we know what love is. Christ laid down his life for us, and so we go and we lay down our lives for others. How we know what love is. I don't want there to be any confusion anymore in your mind about what the picture is supposed to look like. There's a consumer culture in our world that's messing up this picture of love, and we need to step out of that. You know, we're called as Christians to step away, be set apart, and that's a big step. But I believe we're called, and God's put it on our hearts to step away from that, to step away from those trappings, to step away from those fake loving contexts where we're trying to imitate this idea of love, but we're doing it in all the wrong ways. We're looking in all the wrong places. And there's only one vision of love that we need to be imitating, and that is Jesus. You know, there's a text I want to share with you to close. John 19:30. See, this is the end of the story that Jesus wrote on love. When Jesus had received the sour wine, he's hanging on the cross. He said this, "It is finished." And he bowed his head and he gave up his spirit. It's pretty fitting to read that on Easter Friday. It is finished. This picture of Jesus hanging on the cross, defining what love is. And I want you guys to walk out of here with that vision and that definition of what love is tonight. Let there be no confusion. Let there be no mess from the world in your mind that's kind of scribbling all over this beautiful picture that Jesus painted for us of love. Let there be no misunderstanding. He is the definition of love. And he wants us to love him, love his Father. And from that relationship, where he's demonstrating, man, this isn't about I'm not getting anything. I'm dying here for you. This is the ultimate give, the act of giving. And reciprocate that by giving to one another. Love God. Love people. Let that be our mission tonight, this week, as we go from this place back to school, work, day-to-day life. Love God, love people, and know what that love means. That's not some word we spread thin and we bandy around. We know what love is. It's been defined for us on the cross. God, I want to pray tonight that you've just set a fire in hearts in this place. That while we may have been challenged by the word that you've set out, because we all stumble, Lord, and we've all gotten tied up in that consumer love culture at different times in different ways, and chased after a love that gives to us so we can just take in our selfish human nature. Tonight, we go out of here tonight with a spirit of love that's overflowing so we can't help giving back to each other, to the people in our communities, to the circles that we move in outside of our church community, because that's where that love's needed most, and you know that. And Lord, I pray that you would just convict us that definition of love that your Son set before us. Amen.